Content warning for profanity, horror elements, and body horror. Hello, and welcome to the last episode of Discount Storytime. But don't worry, we're not going to leave you hanging. We have a new podcast that's coming out, and I'll tell you a little bit about it after this story. And this week's story is Floppy Hands. Enjoy!
Discount Storytime proudly presents a true POS. That's right, a POS, or Pioneer of Science. And this particular POS is Rufus Pendlefuss, who needs no introduction and will tell us how he started his career in his own words. Enjoy! Okay, we're recording. I'm in my office with the distinguished Rufus Pendlefuss and his assistant. Thank you for coming by today. Thank you for having me. So you want to know about how I came to be this? All this? How it happened? I will tell you. I will tell you the story of how it all happened for me. But first, my throat is dry. Tab me. The other man nervously nods his head and holds up a Tab Cola with a straw. It all started one morning when I awoke to the sound of my alarm clock. I slapped at the snooze button, for I worked as a massage therapist at the time, and my first morning client had rescheduled, thus allowing me a few more moments of slumber, as I was tired and, admittedly hungover. Yet as I slapped at my alarm clock, the snooze button would not obey. How could that be? I tried twice. I tried thrice. And yet the obstinate alarm beeped. This disobedient alarm clock drew forth my ire. How dare it ignored me? But then I saw the problem. It wasn't this resistant beast of technology. No. I winced as the memory of the night before returned. 'Twas a card match betwixt myself and a group of dear friends. However, we had a special guest that night, a colossus among our small band. At last night's card match was Fernando. Yes, international hand model Fernando. We knew not why he joined us, but felt exhilaration by his company. Fernando was indeed a most gracious and charming fellow, and had brought bountiful libations to boot. As the alcohol went down, the bets went up, and the stacks of coins upon the table sparkled like glittering tooth jelly. Greed got the better of my judgment, and I threw in all that I had, but it wasn't nearly enough to cover the stack of coins. Fernando added. I can't cover that, I said. I have no more money. Fernando quickly smiled at me and said, Dear Rufus, perhaps you can bet something besides your money. He clicked his tongue and looked at my hands. No, not at my hands, my hand bones. Fate had borne me with strapping hand bones, and upon receiving such a gift, I thought it was only right to use them to help others, and thus became a licensed massage therapist. I thought to myself, this Fernando chap is a fool. Why, look at all the money on the table. With that amount, I could pay off that expensive breakfast plate I purchased while in a craze of frivolity. I met Fernando's determined eyes and with my own and said, Deal. I was a fool. At the end of the match, Fernando held both a reverse card and a draw 4. Well played, Fernando. Well played, cruel fate. Thus, as I sat by my beating alarm clock, I looked at the pathetic sacks of meat and skin that were my once firm hands. Eventually, and with the encouragement of my neighbors to shut off that damn alarm clock, I unplugged the alarm clock's power cord with my toes. I would have taken the day off to remedy this matter, but alas, I could not, as I had burned through my PTO. Making breakfast was almost impossible, but by holding a chopstick in my mouth, I could work a slice of bread into the toaster. I didn't dare try to butter it. I got the dry toast onto my expensive breakfast plate and, partly out of habit and part foolishness, tried carrying my expensive breakfast plate to the table. My expensive breakfast plate! I slapped my forehead and felt boneless tendrils thwack against my face. My hand bones! How easily I had given them away! Oh, what a fool! Finally recovering some of my senses, I spent the next hour wedging my deflated skin balloons into a pair of leather gloves and left for work. The leather gloves worked as a makeshift exoskeleton, while not as effective as my dear, lost hand bones. The gloves allowed me to arrive at work without incident. My first morning client, Agnes, saw me and cried, "Rufus!" Agnes was a regular client of mine and a pleasure to see on the schedule, even if she could be demanding. Once Agnes had undressed to her comfort level and was resting on the massage table under a blanket, I applied massage oil with lavender for relaxation. Then things began to unravel, for I had kept my leather gloves on. At first Agnes said nothing, but when I asked if the pressure was all right, she said, "No." "No? More or less pressure?" I queried. Agnes's voice was muffled in the massage pillow.
"It's not the pressure. Your rough leather gloves hurt. Please, take them off."
Beads of sweat adorned my brow. "Agnes, I'd prefer to leave them on, if that's all right." Agnes turned her head to make herself heard. "Your gloves hurt, Rufus, so no, it is not all right. Take those gloves off and give me a massage with your powerful hands like you usually do." I froze. Clearly the gloves were irritating Agnes, as her skin was reddened, even with the use of lavender-scented massage oil. I could not, would not hurt my client, so I obliged. It only took a few moments of my flaccid fingers digging across her bare skin before Agnes shot off the table, modesty be damned, and glared at me. "What the hell was that, Rufus?" she demanded, both terrified and angry. She saw my noodle hands, and her face paled. I tried to explain the events that had brought me to this destitute situation, but, and this was the first time I realized this, I talk with my hands, and the more I frantically tried to explain, the more my hand gestures slopped about, and the more upset Agnes became. "Get out! Get out!" she yelled, backing away from the monstrosity before her. I tried leaving, but I could not open the door before my squishy hands slipped in lavender-scented massage oil. "I'm trying to get out," I cried. "Get out!" she wailed, and then something hard and hot hit me. Oh, good. Agnes found the hot stones. That's nice. Finally, the spa manager opened the door and rushed in to investigate the commotion. "What's going on?" Agnes began crying and said something about diseased worms while I wriggled my limp fingers in a panic. Long story short, Agnes is no longer the spa's client, and I was fired. I did not blame Agnes or the spa. This was my doing, and I could not point the blame at anyone but myself. I mean, technically, I couldn't point at anything. My hand bones. I had to get them back somehow. I would find Fernando, that dastardly rogue, and get back what was mine. A scapegrace such as Fernando, who dines on the attention of others, was easy to find. He was to show off his new firm hands at a photo shoot at the internationally renowned Bell Suite Hand Modeling Studio in downtown Discount City. The hard part was avoiding security. Bell Suite Hand Modeling Studio was not just the premier venue for top-of-the-top hand modeling, but also the top of a fortress. It had to be, with so many gawkers vying for a peek at the preeminent celebrities of hand modeling like Juliette Permune, Franz Drinkage, and of course my nemesis, Fernando. The studio was a fortress with armed guards, overhead drones, security cameras, and a moat filled with deadly water giraffes. I tried counting my options, but my fingers just kept flopping all over the place. I was a decent swimmer, but no match for a water giraffe. Unless I had a kayak. I didn't. Crossing the moat was a no-go. Clearly, the photo studio fortress kept out the common rabble. But could it keep out a master of disguise? I rummaged through my knapsack, which I always kept handy with disguises for situations like this, which, if you're a licensed massage therapist, arise quite often. There it was, my best disguise. This would get me in to see that odious Fernando for sure. I ducked behind nearby brushes and quietly donned my disguise. It was my cleverest one and would undoubtedly work. I checked my wig in the reflection of the Bush's security camera and, oh, God damn it. Okay, disguises were out. I walked back to the street and looked for somewhere, anywhere to gain entrance. Perhaps if I could persuade the guards. I walked up to the entrance guards who were having quite a jovial discussion of a concert they had attended the night before. I believe it was a harpsichord playing cat. How grand. But once they saw me, their faces turned to stone. One guard said,
"Halt, citizen. Who goes there?"
"It is I, Rufus Pandlefuss, licensed massage therapist. I request to parley with my nemesis, Fernando." The guards appraised me for a long while, whispering to each other, and then said,
"Nope."
"Okie dokie," I retorted angrily and skulked off. Someday they'll feel bad about that, I'm sure. I flumped down on the curb and buried my head in the nests of squishy tubes that had once been my hands. It was hopeless. Then I heard it. The unmistakable sound of car tires against pavement. But not just any tires, but specifically the sound made by Michelin Cross Climate 2, a popular tire brand for limousines. Hand models only travel by limousine.
Goodbye, Fernando,
someone yelled. My quarry was in the limousine. It was coming. I rushed to the limousine as it left the portcullis. "Fernando, I seek a parley, you fiend," I roared and slapped hot dog fingers across the limousine windows. Then a small red dot blinked in my eye and settled on my chest. Snipers! The limousine window rolled down and a hand, an admittedly very handsome hand with strong hand bones, flew out the window and waved to the snipers to halt, at least for now. Fernando pulled down his sunglasses and smiled. "My dear Rufus, why, you came to visit me at work. How sweet." "Fernando, I want my hand bones back. They're mine." Tears of anger and sorrow peppered the ground. My tears, not Fernando's. He wasn't crying. I just thought I should clarify that point. I was the one crying, not Fernando. He jutted out his lower lip in mock sadness. "My friend, why are you so upset? You placed a bet, and you lost. It's that simple." I tried grabbing at Fernando's hand, but as he jerked back, a card fell out of his shirt sleeve. A reverse card! He laughed. "Oopsie doodle. You don't understand, do you? This was about more than a card game. Much more." Fernando saw the look of confusion on my face and continued. "This was always about you, dear Rufus Pandlefuss, licensed massage therapist. How sweet that you are unaware of your own reputation, for it is widely known the strength and power, yes, power." Fernando stressed the word power by making a fist. "The power of your hand bones. I heard tales for many years about your strong hand bones, and I thought to myself, why is this man using his hand bones for good? Why couldn't those hand bones be used for the perfect hand model, such as..." Then he pointed to himself. "So I concocted my..." "Excuse me, sir?" The limousine driver cut in. Fernando sighed. "Just Kevin?" "Well, is this villainous evildoer monologue wrapping up? Not to rush you, but perhaps we can turn off the engine for a bit? We're trying to cut down on fuel expenses and, our carbon footprint," Kevin said into the rearview mirror. Just fine. Don't interrupt me again." Fernando picked up where he had left off. "My apologies. Where was I? You concocted, I said. Jace, thank you. I concocted a plan to secure those powerful hand bones for myself. It took months of planning, but I finally inserted myself into your quaint card game with the lure of money and generous libations, and a bit of luck. What luck? You cheated! I was lucky enough not to get caught. So now you know, with your hand bones and my natural hand-modeling talent, I will be unstoppable. No other hand model will even come close to me. And this year's Pearly Palm Award for Hand Model of the Year will be mine. Not so fast, a voice growled behind me. I swung around, and a spry old man wearing a tweed suit and horn-rimmed glasses quickly caught my arm. My jaw dropped. It was Paolo Berardinini, the world-famous hand photographer. Let me see those hands, he said to me in a stereotypically and probably offensive accent reserved for third-rate podcasts. Why, your hands. I've never seen anything like them before. What? I asked while he toyed with my digits. I have photographed many hands, and some beautiful hands, mind you. But these hands are so remarkably flaccid, I asked. Paolo's eyes lit up. Yes, amazing. Jew, please do me the honor of being my muse. What? Screeched Fernando. But I am your... You were, Fernando. U-W-E-R, ver. But you tricked this young man, and that's not nice. What do you have to offer me? The same old hands with the bones. How boring, how pedestrian, begone. With that, Kevin the driver started up the limousine to leave. Fernando, although a cad, was broken. I could see it in his eyes. The world of hand modeling was his whole life. And today I learned what it felt like to be pushed aside. My career as a licensed massage therapist was surely over, but now I had a chance. And if I deserved a second chance, why shouldn't Fernando? The limousine was driving off when I yelled, "Stop the car!" The limousine ground to a steady stop with the quality of Michelin's Cross Climate 2 tires. I said, "Mr. Paolo, I'll be honored to work for you, but on one condition." "Yes, my squishy fingered angel." "That Fernando be allowed to work." Fernando looked up at me with tear-soaked eyes. "As my assistant." Fernando shrugged his shoulders. Fair enough. And that is how I, Rufus Pandolfuss, became a world premiere hand model. I'm the only hand model to win the Pearly Palm Award 5 years in a row, and without a single hand bone. Rufus looked at me and asked, "Is there anything else you would like to know for this Time magazine interview?" I told him I may have lied about who was interviewing him, and we weren't Time magazine. His eyebrows lifted. "No? Newsweek? Harper's Review? Fangoria?" I said, "The Discount Storytime Podcast." And he became physically ill, turned his head, and spewed vomit all over Fernando's pants. "Clean up yourself, Fernando. We are leaving. Now." As they stormed out of my office, I couldn't help feeling uplifted by his story. I hope you are feeling inspired as well by this pioneer of science. The end.
So I'm a Midwesterner, so this is the point where we say, "Welp," it means we're wrapping up. So thank you so much for being such wonderful listeners throughout the Discount Storytime podcast. I counted it up, 87 episodes. Can you believe it? 87 stories and the whole Worried Wendell series and all of that. But don't worry, dear listener, we are not going to leave you hanging. We have a new podcast called Chicken Fried Horror that will be the first episode next week. The link is in the show notes if you want to go ahead and subscribe. There's a quick little 3-minute introduction episode for you. And the first movie, because these are all going to be our own discount story time takes on horror movies. The first one is the 1996 horror movie Thinner. So I will see you over there. And if you click on the link and if you subscribe, there's a little link in all the show notes where you can click on that and say hi. Grande and I would love to hear from you and let us know that you're popping over from the Discount Storytime side. And we are also going to leave this podcast up as an archive, so it will always be available to you. So thank you so much for being such wonderful and supportive listeners. Thank you for being such a great audience. And be sure to play nice with others. Be super duper kind to yourself. And always, always, always remember to laugh. You take care. Bye.